Hey, fifth grade! Today I'm going to show you how to multiply mixed numbers. There are two different ways that we will learn how to multiply mixed numbers, but today we're going to learn how to multiply them using partial quotients and the area model. I know those words sound very difficult, but all partial quotients means is to pretty much just split up your mixed number, such as 3 and 1/8, into your whole number and your fraction. You're just splitting it up. Here's what I mean. We take our 3 and 1/8 because we're multiplying 3 and 1/8 times 4. That's what we're trying to get our answer to. So I split up the 3 from the 8 and drew a line here. The area model is this rectangle. That's just going to help us keep everything organized. On the right side here, we have a 4. As you can see, I didn't have to split up anything there because it wasn't a mixed number. I didn't have to split up the 4 from a fraction. It was just a regular 4. So, to start finding our answer to 3 and 1/8 times 4, we multiply every number in the length. You can see we have our 3 split from our 1/8 here. So we're going to take our 3 and our 1/8. We're going to multiply each one of those by every number in the width. Like I said, in this case, it's just a regular old 4. So, we start out by multiplying 3 times 4 and getting an answer of 12. I'm going to circle my answer because that's going to help me keep everything organized. Next, we do 1/8 times 4 over 1, and I'm doing 4 over 1 because we're multiplying by a fraction here. Straight across the top, 1 times 4 is 4. Straight across the bottom, 8 times 1 is 8. We could also simplify it to be 1/2 instead of 4 times 8. So now you can see I have two different numbers circled here. Now that I have multiplied every number in my length times every number in my width, my box is completely filled. I just have to add every number that I found the answer to together to get my final answer for what 3 and 1/8 times 4 is. We have 12 in this box plus 1/2 in the second box. 12 plus 1/2 is equal to 12 and 1/2. So our answer to 3 and 1/8 times 4 is equal to 12 and 1/2. So what do we do when we're multiplying by two mixed numbers instead of a mixed number times a whole number? Pretty much the same process, just with an extra step. You can pause this now if you want to take notes from it. So, if we have, let's say, 3 and 1/2 times 1 and 1/2. As you can see, the difference here is we're multiplying by two mixed numbers this time. So for both of these numbers, we're going to split up the whole number, like your 3, from the 1/2. We're just going to separate them. So, draw you a box or a square again. We're going to split up our 3 right here from our 1/2. And this time, because it's not just a regular 1, it's 1 and 1/2, it's a mixed number, we have to split it. Just like we did with the length, we're going to split our width over here into two ways too. Because we had to split two mixed numbers, now we have 4 boxes instead of 2, but it's still the same process. 3 times 1, anything times 1 is equal to the same thing. So 3 times 1 equals 3. 1/2 times 1 equals 1/2. Let me make sure that I'm circling my answers to each one. 3 times 1/2, 3 over 1 times 1/2 is equal to, straight across the top, straight across the bottom, 3 over 2. And then finally 1/2 times 1/2, straight across the top, straight across the bottom again, is equal to 1/4. So now we have 4 different numbers here. We have 3, 1/2, 3 over 2, and 1/4. When we go to add them this time, it's going to take a little bit longer. So let me draw a line so we don't get confused. I'm just going to take all 4 of my numbers and rewrite them over here because we know that once we multiply every number in the length by every number in the width and get our answers, then we just have to add them to get our final answer to what 3 1/2 times 1 1/2 is. So we have our 3. I'm going to put it over 1 because I'm adding fractions to it. Let me just put a little check there. Plus 1/2 plus 3 over 2 plus 1/4. Well, as you can see here, we don't have the same denominator in every one of our fractions, and we're adding them, so that's a problem. So the first thing we need to do is make them all the same. So I'm going to write down my multiples of each one. Some of you are probably looking at this like it's 4. Just in case, I'm just going to write it down. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, 1 times 4 is 4, 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4. Seeing a pattern here, here's a 4, here's a 4, and we know 4 times 1 is, of course, 4. So we know that my common denominator is going to be 4. I'm going to erase this just so we have a little more room. We're going to make all of these fractions equal to a denominator of 4. So something over 4 plus something over 4 plus something over 4 plus something over 4 is going to equal something over 4. What do we multiply 1 by to get 4? 4. So multiply 3 times 4 as well and get 12. 2 times what gave us 4? 2. Same thing to the top that you do to the bottom. 1 times 2 is also 2. Same thing here, times 2. 3 times 2 is 6. We didn't change the 4 here, so we don't change the top number. So now, all that's left to do is add 12 plus 2 plus 6 plus 1. When you do that, you get an answer of 21 over 4. This answer is correct, but if we wanted to simplify it, turn it back into a mixed number. Bottom into top, 4 goes into 21, 5 whole times with 1 left over. Keep your denominator of 4. So our answer to 3 1/2 times 1 1/2 is equal to 5 1/4.